How are you guys doing? Today is Monday, April 4th, 2022. I'm James Sims, and for this episode of The Elite, I'm going to review yesterday's Elite matchups and performances from Sunday, April 3rd, as of course we move into the first Monday of April for the 2022 year. I'm of course going to preview everything that's going on today as we navigate through the world of sports one day at a time. But before I do so, I'm going to take a quick step back and take a look at where we are in the calendar year. With baseball coming up and opening day coming up on the 7th, we are coming towards the end of the collegiate basketball seasons. The women's college basketball season is officially over as the University of South Carolina Gamecocks were able to win their second national championship on the women's side, as the last time and first time they were able to win this tournament was in 2017 when Aja Wilson was on the team. And then, of course, the men's college basketball championship is going to be tonight in New Orleans, as the Kansas Jayhawks out of the Big 12 are going to face off against the North Carolina Tar Heels out of the ACC. Also, looking at the NBA, teams are starting to sort themselves out as these teams are getting ready for the playoffs, as the East is more set up than the West, but of course teams still have to set themselves up with about 3-4 games left in their schedules. Not to mention that in soccer, teams are still playing in their domestic leagues as they are trying to seed themselves out, as teams are still trying to win their own domestic leagues. With that said, I'm going to start with the end of the women's collegiate basketball season for the 2021-22 season. And in this championship, the 1 seed South Carolina Gamecocks, who would come out of the Greensboro region, would go on to face off against the 2 seed UConn Huskies, who came out of the Bridgeport region. Taking a look at how both teams made it here, looking first at how UConn got here. They played their first 2 matchups on their home court in Storrs, Connecticut. They would beat 15 seed Mercer by 45 in the first round before beating 7 seed UCF by 5. In their second weekend, they would play those 2 games in Bridgeport, Connecticut. In the Sweet 16, they would beat 3 seed Indiana by 17. And then in the Elite 8, they would beat the 1 seed in that region, the NC State Wolfpack, by 4 in overtime. So this would lead to UConn going to the Final Four. They would beat the number 1 seed out of the Spokane region, so that would be Stanford, and so that would lead them to facing off against their third 1 seed in a row, the 1 seed out of the Greensboro region. Looking at how South Carolina got here, they won their first 2 games on their home court in Columbia, South Carolina. They would go on to beat 16 seed Howard by 58 after Howard beat Incarnate Word to play into that game in the first place. In the second round, South Carolina would beat 8 seed Miami by 16 to make it to the second round, or to the second weekend in Greensboro, North Carolina. In the Sweet 16, they would beat 5 seed North Carolina by 8 to make it to the Elite 8. In the Elite 8, they would beat 1 seed Creighton by 30 to make it to the Final Four in Minneapolis. And against their first number 1 seed, the Louisville Cardinals from the Wichita region, they would beat them by 13 to make it to the Final, or to make it to the national championship game. And once 1 seed South Carolina would face off against the only 2 seed that would make the Final Four, the only non-1 seed that would make the Final Four in UConn. South Carolina would go on to beat UConn 64 to 49. This would be the very first time that Gino Auriemma has lost in the championship game. He is 11-1 as the head coach for UConn in that game itself. South Carolina would win this game by 15 after they outscored UConn by 14 in the first quarter. Not to mention they also outscored UConn by 6 in the fourth. On the losing end of this matchup, the 2 seed UConn Huskies out of the Big East would finish their season being led in scoring by their starting guard, Paige Beckers, from the Minneapolis region. Their sophomore would finish with 14 points and 6 rebounds in 39 minutes. She shot 6 for 13 from the field, and she would go on to shoot 1 for 2 from the free throw line as well. On the winning end of this matchup in their final game of the season, the 1 seed South Carolina Gamecocks out of the SEC will finish their season on a win, the only team in the tournament to finish their season on a win. They would be led in scoring by their starting guard, Destiny Henderson. Their senior from Fort Myers, Florida, would finish with 26 points and 3 steals alongside 4 assists and a couple of rebounds in 34 minutes. 26 points was her season high, and she of course did it in the national championship game. She shot 9 for 20 from the field, 3 for 6 from 3, and 5 for 6 from the free throw line. In South Carolina's starting lineup, of course, still their starting junior, the National Player of the Year, Aaliyah Boston, out of the Virgin Islands, would finish with 11 points and 16 rebounds alongside 2 blocks in 35 minutes. She shot 3 for 8 from the field, and she shot 5 for 8 from the free throw line. Also in the starting lineup for South Carolina, their starting guard, Zia Cook, their junior from Toledo, Ohio, would finish with 11 points, as she also had 5 rebounds in 30 minutes. She shot 5 for 13 from the field and 1 for 2 from the free throw line. With this win, the South Carolina Gamecocks have won their second national championship. The first championship they won was in 2017. They finished their season with a 35-2 record. And this came after finishing with the best record in the SEC, despite losing in the SEC tournament to Kentucky. But, of course, congratulations to South Carolina. And with this loss, the second seed UConn Huskies from the Bridgeport region will finish their 2021-22 season with a 30-6 record. This came after they won the Big East this year. But of course, that's how that season's going to end. Taking a look at how the men's national tournament is going to end, the 1 seed Kansas Jayhawks coming out of the Midwest are going to face off against the 8 seed UNC Tar Heels coming out of the East. Looking at how both teams got, but first, this game is going to be at 9:20 on TBS in the Caesar Superdome in New Orleans, Louisiana, after both teams won their final 4 games in New Orleans on Saturday. Looking at how 8 seed North Carolina got here out of the East, they would play their first 2 games in Fort Worth, Texas. They would beat 9 seed Marquette by 32 in the first round before they beat 1 seed Baylor by 7 in overtime in the second round after Baylor pulled off a crazy comeback. In the Sweet 16, North Carolina would beat 4 seed UCLA by 7 in Philly, and then they would go on to the Elite 8 where they would beat 15 seed St. Peter's by 20. In the Final Four, they would go to New Orleans to beat their longtime rival Duke in their first time meet up with Duke in the March Madness tournament, and also in Coach K's last game, they would go on to beat 2 seed Duke by 4. They won it 81-77. Looking at how 1 seed Kansas made it out of the Midwest, their first weekend would be in Fort Worth, Texas as well. They would beat 16 seed Texas Southern by 27 after Texas Southern beat Texas A&M Corpus Christi in their first 4 matchup. In their second game, Kansas would beat 9 seed Creighton by 7 to make it to their second weekend in Chicago. In the Sweet 16, they would beat the highest seed in their division that they would face off against, the 4 seed Providence Friars, by 5 to make it to the Elite 8. In the Elite 8, they would beat 10 seed Miami out of the ACC by 26 to make it to the Final Four. In the Final Four, they would beat the Big East champions Villanova by 16. They won it 81-65. And that is, of course, how they would make it here, as this game between Kansas and UNC would be very big. Of course, very momentous, historic Blue Bloods playing for a national championship. So, of course, that's a lot to look forward to there. And once that game is done, I will come back with a championship profile, just like I will do for the South Carolina women's team following this episode. But of course, in addition to what's going on with collegiate basketball, taking a look at what's going on in the NBA, as the NBA season is coming to a close, the Boston Celtics hosted the Washington Wizards. The Celtics would beat the Wizards 144-102. The Celtics won this game by 42 after they went on to outscore the Wizards by 13 in the first quarter, by 14 in the third, and by 17 in the fourth, by 31 in the second half. On the losing end of this matchup, the Washington Wizards were led in scoring by their starting center, Kristaps Porzingis. He finished with 17 points and 7 rebounds in 26 minutes. He shot 5 for 15 from the field, 2 for 3 from 3, and he would go on to make all 5 of his free throws. Their starting shooting guard out of Georgia, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, finished with 17 points in 30 minutes. He shot 7 for 17 from the field as he made both of his free throws. On the winning end of this matchup, the hometown Boston Celtics were led in scoring by their starting shooting guard Jaylen Brown. He finished with 32 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, and 2 steals in 29 minutes. He shot 12 for 17 from the field, 4 for 5 from 3, and he made all 4 of his free throws. Their elite starting small forward, Jason Tatum, finished with 22 points, 6 rebounds, 7 assists, and 2 steals in 29 minutes. He shot 9 for 17 from the field, and he would go on to shoot 3 for 6 from the free throw line as well. With this win, the Boston Celtics are now 49-30. That is currently the second best record in the Eastern Conference. They've now won their last 2 games, and they've won 8 of their last 10 games. They are currently sitting 2 games behind the Eastern Conference leading Miami Heat in the Eastern Conference playoff picture. They also sit half a game ahead of the defending champs in third place Milwaukee Bucks, who are tied with the Philadelphia 76ers. Right now, the Sixers have 3 games left in their schedule as they are still able to get the top seed in the East, and they've already clinched a playoff spot, one of 3 teams in the East to do so, alongside that, they've also clinched a home spot as they sit 3.5 games ahead of the 5th place Bulls, who are tied with the 6th place Raptors. With this loss, the Washington Wizards are 34-44. That is the 4th worst record in the Eastern Conference as they've lost 5 of their last 10 games. They are already one of the 5 teams in the East that have failed to qualify for the playoffs this year, alongside the Orlando Magic, the Detroit Pistons, the Indiana Pacers, and the New York Knicks. They are sitting 6 games behind the 2-way tie of the Charlotte Hornets and the Brooklyn Nets at the bottom of the play-in picture, as the Washington Wizards have 4 games left in their schedule. Taking a look at what happened in Milwaukee, the defending champs Milwaukee Bucks hosted the Dallas Mavericks. The Mavericks would beat the Bucks by 6. They won it 118-112 after they outscored the Bucks by 10 in the second quarter and then by 4 in the second half. On the losing end of this matchup, the hometown Milwaukee Bucks were led in scoring by their elite starting power forward, last year's NBA Finals MVP, Giannis Antetokounmpo. He would finish with 28 points, 10 rebounds, 2 assists, and 2 steals in 40 minutes. He shot 12 for 22 from the field and 4 for 8 from the free throw line. The Bucks starting point guard, Jrue Holiday, finished with 20 points and 9 assists in 36 minutes. He shot 7 for 12 from the field, 5 for 8 from 3 as he made his only free throw. The Bucks all-star starting small forward, Chris Middleton, finished with 11 points and 9 assists alongside 4 rebounds in 37 minutes. He shot 3 for 14 from the field and 5 for 6 from the free throw line. On the winning end of this matchup, the Dallas Mavericks were led in scoring by their elite starting shooting guard out of Slovenia, Luka Doncic. He finished with 32 points, 8 rebounds, 15 assists, 3 steals, and 6 turnovers in 39 minutes. He shot 9 for 22 from the field, 3 for 9 from 3, and 11 for 14 from the free throw line. Their starting center, Dwight Powell, finished with 22 points and 13 rebounds in 31 minutes. He shot 8 for 10 from the field, and he made all 6 of his free throws. And, of course, with this win, the Dallas Mavericks are 49-30. That is the 4th best record in the Western Conference, as they've won 6 of their last 10. In the Western Conference playoff picture, they sit a game behind the 3rd-place Golden State Warriors. They sit 2 games ahead of the 5th-place Denver Nuggets. With 3 games left in their schedule, they sit 13.5 games behind the Western Conference leading Phoenix Suns, as the highest seed they can hope for right now is the 3 seed. With this loss, the Milwaukee Bucks are now 48-30. That is the 3rd best record in the East. They've lost their last 2 games, and they've lost 4 of their last 10. In the Eastern Conference playoff picture, they are sitting even with the 4th place Philadelphia 76ers, as they actually have the same record. The Bucks have clinched a playoff seed in the East, so they don't have to worry about that. In the Eastern Conference playoff picture, they sit half a game behind the 2nd place Boston Celtics. They also sit 3 games ahead of the Chicago Bulls and the 6th place Toronto Raptors just for that. And of course, with 4 games left in their schedule, they sit 2.5 games behind the Eastern Conference leading Miami Heat, as the first seed is mathematically attainable for Milwaukee right now this season. Taking a look at what happened in the first game in the Crypto.com arena, the Los Angeles Lakers hosted the Denver Nuggets. The Nuggets would beat the Lakers 129-118. The Nuggets won this game by 11 after beating the Lakers by 10 in the fourth quarter. On the losing end of this matchup, the hometown Lakers were led in scoring by their elite starting power forward, Anthony Davis, out of Kentucky. He finished with 28 points, 9 rebounds, 8 assists, 2 steals, and 3 blocks in 35 minutes. He shot 11 for 25 from the field and a perfect 6 for 6 from the free throw line. The Lakers' goated starting point guard Russell Westbrook, the NBA's all-time leader in triple-doubles, finished with 27 points, 10 rebounds, 7 assists, and 2 blocks in 34 minutes. He shot 11 for 15 from the field and 5 for 10 from the free throw line. And, of course, on the winning end of this matchup, the Denver Nuggets were led in scoring by their elite starting center, last year's regular season MVP, Nikola Jokic. He would go on to finish with 38 points, 18 rebounds, 6 assists, 3 steals, 2 blocks, and 7 turnovers in 33 minutes. The Serbian big man would shoot 15 for 22 from the field and 8 for 11 from the free throw line. The Nuggets starting small forward, Will Barton, finished with 25 points in 37 minutes. He shot 8 for 12 from the field, 6 for 8 from 3, and 3 for 4 from the free throw line. The Nuggets starting power forward, Aaron Gordon, finished with 24 points and 8 rebounds in 37 minutes. He shot 9 for 14 from the field, 3 for 5 from 3, and 3 for 4 from the free throw line. With this win, the Denver Nuggets are now 47-32. That is the 5th best record in the Western Conference. The Nuggets have won 6 of their last 10 games. In the Western Conference playoff picture, considering they have 5 games left in their schedule, they sit 2 games behind the 4th place Dallas Mavericks. They sit half a game ahead of the 6th place Utah Jazz. Overall, they are sitting 15.5 games behind the Western Conference leading Phoenix Suns, as the highest seed they are hoping for now is the 3rd seed that the Warriors have at the moment, as they are still looking to qualify for a for-sure playoff spot. They sit 2 games ahead of the 7th place Minnesota Timberwolves. With this loss, the Los Angeles Lakers are 31-47. That is the 5th worst record in the Western Conference. They've now lost their last 6 games. Their 6-game losing streak is the 2nd longest active losing streak in the West. The Trailblazers have a longer losing streak. The Lakers have lost 8 of their last 10. In the outside of the Western Conference playoff picture, they sit 2 games behind the 10th place San Antonio Spurs, as the Lakers have 4 games left in their schedule. They have not been eliminated yet, but they are getting closer. Jumping out to Indianapolis, the Indiana Pacers hosted the Detroit Pistons. In this matchup, the Pistons would beat the Pacers 121-117. The Pistons won this game by 4 after outscoring the Pacers by 11 in the third quarter. On the losing end of this matchup, the hometown Pacers were led in scoring by their starting small forward, O'Shea Brissett. He finished with 20 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists, and 5 turnovers in 34 minutes. He shot 7 for 14 from the field, 4 for 6 from 3, and he made both of his free throws. The Pacers starting point guard, Tyrese Halliburton from Iowa State, finished with 19 points, 9 rebounds, 17 assists, and 2 blocks in 39 minutes. He shot 6 for 13 from the field and 7 for 8 from the free throw line. On the winning end of this matchup, the Detroit Pistons were led in scoring by their starting small forward, Saddiq Bey. He finished with 31 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, and 2 steals in 23 minutes. He shot 11 for 18 from the field, 7 for 9 from 3, and he made both of his free throws. With this win, the Detroit Pistons are 23-56. That is the 2nd worst record in the Eastern Conference, as that is the 3rd worst record in the NBA. They've won their last 3 games, and they've won 5 of their last 10. Sitting outside of the Eastern Conference playoff picture, they are one of the 5 teams in the East that have not qualified for the playoffs. They sit 12 games behind. They sit 17.5 games behind the 2-way tie of the Charlotte Hornets and the Brooklyn Nets at the bottom of the play-in picture, as they are looking forward to the lottery this offseason, and so are the Indiana Pacers. With this loss, the Pacers are 25-54. That is the third worst record in the Eastern Conference. They've now lost their last 7 games. That is the longest active losing streak in the East. They are tied with the Portland Trailblazers for the longest active losing streak in the NBA. The Pacers have lost 8 of their last 10 games. They are sitting 15 and a half games behind the Hornets and the Nets, as they have 3 games left in their schedules. They are looking forward to this offseason. Taking a look at what's going on in Cleveland, the Cleveland Cavaliers hosted the Philadelphia 76ers. The 76ers would beat the Cavaliers by 4. They won it 112-108 after outscoring the Cavs by 10 in the second half, by 7 in the third quarter alone to take the lead. On the losing end of this matchup, the hometown Cavs were led in scoring by their all-star starting point guard Darius Garland. He finished with 23 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, and 4 steals in 37 minutes. He shot 7 for 18 from the field, 3 for 5 from 3, and he made all 6 of his free throws. And, of course, on the winning end of this matchup, the Philadelphia Sixers were led in scoring by their elite starting center, Joel Embiid. Embiid finished with 44 points, 17 rebounds, 3 assists, and 5 blocks in 38 minutes. He shot 12 for 26 from the field, 3 for 6 from 3, and 17 for 20 from the free throw line. Their elite starting shooting guard out of Arizona State, James Harden, would finish with 21 points, 10 rebounds, and 10 assists in 41 minutes. Alongside his triple-double, he would shoot 4 for 13 from the field, 2 for 7 from 3. He would shoot 11 for 12 from the free throw line. Of course, Embiid and Harden together would combine for 65 points, 27 rebounds, and 13 assists on the day. With this win, the Sixers are now 48-30. That is the third best record in the Eastern Conference, as they are tied with the Milwaukee Bucks. The Sixers have won their last 2 games, and they've won 6 of their last 10. They've officially clinched an official playoff spot in the Eastern Conference this year, the 4th team in the East to do so. In the Eastern Conference playoff picture, alongside the Bucks, they are sitting half a game behind the second-place Boston Celtics. They are sitting 3 games ahead of the Chicago Bulls and the Toronto Raptors, who are tied for the 5th best record in the East. With 4 games left in their schedule, they are sitting 2.5 games behind the Eastern Conference leading Miami Heat, so they are still able to grab that 1 seed mathematically. With this loss, the Cleveland Cavaliers are 43-36. That is the 7th best record in the East. They've lost 6 of their last 10 games. And looking at where they're sitting at the top of the play-in picture, they are sitting 2.5 games behind the 2-way tie of the Bulls and the Raptors. They are sitting a game and a half ahead of the 8th place Atlanta Hawks. And considering they have 3 games left in their schedule, the highest seed that they can get is the 5th seed, as they are seeing themselves inching closer and closer to playing in that play-in game. Taking a look at what happened in Orlando, the Magic would host the Knicks. The Knicks would beat the Orlando Magic 118-88. They won this game by 30 after outscoring Orlando by 22 in the third quarter. On the losing end of this matchup, the hometown Magic were led in scoring by their center off the bench, Mo Wagner out of Michigan. He would go on to finish with 18 points. He had 18 points and 9 rebounds in 29 minutes. He shot 7 for 10 from the field, 2 for 5 from 3, and he would shoot 2 for 4 from the free throw line. And Orlando's starting center, Mo Bamba, would finish with 13 points and 12 rebounds in 29 minutes. He shot 5 for 13 from the field and 3 for 8 from 3. On the winning end of this matchup, the New York Knicks were led in scoring by their starting shooting guard out of Duke, R.J. Barrett. He finished with 27 points, 5 rebounds, and 6 assists in 33 minutes. He shot 9 for 20 from the field, 3 for 9 from 3, and 6 for 8 from the free throw line. Their starting power forward and former Collegiate National Player of the Year out of Dayton, Obi Toppin, finished with 20 points and 8 rebounds in 35 minutes. He shot 7 for 16 from the field, 4 for 10 from 3, and he made both of his free throws. The Knicks shooting guard off the bench, Emmanuel Quickly, finished with a triple-double off the bench. He had 20 points, 10 rebounds, 10 assists, and 2 steals in 34 minutes. He shot 8 for 19 from the field, and he would make his only free throw as well as he shot 3 for 10 from 3. The Knicks starting center, Mitchell Robinson, would finish with 12 points, 10 rebounds, 3 steals, and 5 blocks, all in 29 minutes. He shot 6 for 8 from the field. With this win, the New York Knicks are now 35-44. That is the 5th worst record in the Eastern Conference, as they are one of the 5 teams that have failed to qualify for the playoffs in the East. They've won 6 of their last 10 games. They sit 5.5 games behind the Hornets and Nets, with 3 games left in their schedule. With this loss, the Orlando Magic are now 20-59. That is the worst record in the East. They are tied with the Rockets for the worst record in the NBA. They have now lost their last 6 games. That is the second longest active losing streak in the East, as they sit behind the Pacers. They've lost 8 of their last 10. But outside of the Eastern Conference playoff picture, they are sitting 20.5 games behind the Hornets and the Nets. Taking a look at what happened north of the border, the Toronto Raptors hosted the Miami Heat. The Heat would beat the Raptors 114-109. They won this game by 5 after outscoring the Raptors by 11 in the third quarter, by 15 for the second half. On the losing end of this matchup, the hometown Raptors were led in scoring by their starting power forward Pascal Siakam and their all-star starting shooting guard Fred VanVleet. Siakam finished with 29 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists, and 2 steals in 43 minutes. He shot 11 for 18 from the field, and he would go on to shoot 6 for 7 from the free throw line. Fred VanVleet, their all-star, finished with 29 points, 2 rebounds, 7 assists, 3 steals, and 5 turnovers in 41 minutes. He shot 7 for 17 from the field, 4 for 11 from 3. He would go on to make all 11 of his free throws as well. On the winning end of this matchup, the Miami Heat were led in scoring by their starting shooting guard, Max Strus. He finished with 23 points in 29 minutes. He shot 7 for 10 from the field. All of his makes came from 3. He was 7 for 9 from 3, and he would go on to make both of his free throws. Their shooting guard off the bench out of Indiana, Victor Oladipo, would finish with 21 points, 2 steals, and 5 turnovers in 27 minutes. He shot 7 for 11 from the field, 6 for 9 from 3. He would shoot 1 for 2 from the free throw line. The Heat starting point guard, Kyle Lowry, finished with 16 points, 6 rebounds, and 10 assists in 35 minutes. He shot 4 for 8 from the field, 2 for 4 from 3, and 6 for 7 from the free throw line. With this win, the Miami Heat are 51-28. That is the best record in the Eastern Conference, and that is currently the 3rd best record in the NBA. They've won their last 4 games, and they've won 6 of their last 10. Sitting at the top of the Eastern Conference playoff picture with 3 games left in their schedule, they sit 2 games ahead of the second-place Boston Celtics. They've already clinched their division. So far, the lowest seed that they can get is the 4th seed. But of course, with more wins, they can see that they see themselves inching closer to getting that number 1 seed and clinching home court advantage throughout the Eastern Conference playoff rounds. On the losing end of this matchup, the Toronto Raptors are 45-33. They are tied with the Chicago Bulls for the 5th best record in the East. They've now lost 3 of their last 10 games. In the playoff picture, alongside the Bulls, they are sitting 3 games behind the Milwaukee Bucks and the Philadelphia 76ers, who are tied for the 3rd best record in the East. They are both sitting 2.5 games ahead of the 7th place Cleveland Cavaliers, and because they have 4 games left in their schedule, the highest seed they can hope for is the 2nd seed, which is being occupied by the Celtics. And of course, taking a look at what is going on in Houston, the Houston Rockets hosted the Minnesota Timberwolves. The Wolves would beat the Rockets 139-132. Minnesota won this game by 7 after outscoring Houston by 10 in the first quarter and then by 12 in the third quarter. On the losing end of this matchup, the hometown Houston Rockets were led in scoring by their starting shooting guard, last year's number 2 overall pick, Jalen Green. He finished with 31 points, 2 rebounds, and 5 assists in 36 minutes. He shot 12 for 18 from the field, 4 for 8 from 3, and 3 for 6 from the free throw line. Their shooting guard off the bench, Josh Christopher, would finish with 30 points, 3 rebounds, and 2 steals in 30 minutes. He shot 11 for 14 from the field, 3 for 5 from 3, and 5 for 7 from the free throw line. Houston starting shooting guard Kevin Porter Jr. out of USC finished with 21 points, 6 rebounds, 8 assists, 2 steals, and 8 turnovers in 36 minutes. He shot 6 for 14 from the field, 4 for 10 from 3, and a perfect 5 for 5 from the free throw line. The Rockets starting center Alperen Sengun finished with 14 points, 15 rebounds, and 5 turnovers in 33 minutes. He shot 5 for 7 from the field, and he made all 4 of his free throws. On the winning end of this matchup, the Minnesota Timberwolves were led in scoring by their elite starting small forward, Anthony Edwards. He finished with 33 points, 4 rebounds, 5 assists, and 2 steals in 35 minutes. He shot 12 for 21 from the field, 4 for 12 from 3, and he would make all 5 of his free throws. Their elite starting center, Karl Anthony Towns, finished with 28 points, 11 rebounds, and 5 assists in 35 minutes. He shot 12 for 16 from the field, 1 for 3 from 3, and he made 3 of his 5 free throws. Their starting point guard, D'Angelo Russell, finished with 22 points, 9 assists, 4 steals, and 5 turnovers in 35 minutes. He shot 7 for 16 from the field, 4 for 11 from 3, and he made all 4 of his free throws. With this win, the Minnesota Timberwolves are now 45-34. That is currently the 7th best record in the Western Conference. They've won their last 2 games, and they've won 6 of their last 10. In the Western Conference playoff picture, they sit a game and a half behind the 6th place Utah Jazz. They sit 6 games ahead of the 8th place Los Angeles Clippers. With 3 games left in their schedule, they sit 17 and a half games behind the Western Conference leading Phoenix Suns. The highest seed that they could possibly get now is the 5th seed. And of course, with this loss, the Houston Rockets are 20-59. That is the worst record in the Western Conference. They are tied with the Magic for the worst record in the NBA. They've lost their last 4 games, and they've lost 7 of their last 10. They are currently sitting 13 and a half games behind the 10th place San Antonio Spurs, as the Rockets have 3 games left in their schedule. As a result, the Rockets are one of 4 teams in the Western Conference who have failed to qualify for the playoffs this year. They sit alongside the Oklahoma City Thunder, the Portland Trail Blazers, and the Sacramento Kings. So that is where they are sitting, as they are, of course, looking forward to this upcoming lottery. Taking a look at what happened in Oklahoma City, the Thunder would host the NBA-leading Phoenix Suns. The Thunder would go on to beat the Suns 117-96, as those Suns would rest a couple of their starters. The Thunder would win this game by 21. They would win it 117-96 after they outscored the Suns by 10 in the third quarter and then by 12 in the fourth to outscore them by 22 in the second half. On the losing end of this matchup, the Suns were led in scoring by their starting small forward, Mikal Bridges, out of Villanova. He finished with 18 points in 30 minutes. He shot 7 for 17 from the field and a perfect 3 for 3 from the free throw line. The Suns' elite starting point guard out of Wake Forest, Chris Paul, finished with 11 points, 2 rebounds, 9 assists, and 3 steals in 30 minutes. He shot 5 for 11 from the field and 1 for 2 from the free throw line. On the winning end of this matchup, the hometown Oklahoma City Thunder were led in scoring by their center off the bench, Olivier Sarr. He finished with 24 points, 6 rebounds, and 2 blocks in 22 minutes. He shot 9 for 12 for the field, 5 for 6 from 3, and he made his only free throw on the night. The Thunder starting center, Aleksej Pukusevski, finished with 17 points, 10 rebounds, and 12 assists, as well as 6 turnovers in 34 minutes. He would have a triple-double for the night. He would shoot 7 for 14 from the field and 3 for 5 from 3. With this win, the Oklahoma City Thunder are now 23-55. That is the second worst record in the Western Conference. That is currently the 4th worst record in the NBA. They've won 3 of their last 10 games, and in the Western Conference, outside of the playoff picture, they sit 10 games behind the 10th place San Antonio Spurs with 4 games left in their schedule. So, of course, their season is virtually over, as they have 4 games left, and they are done until October. And with this loss, the Phoenix Suns are now 62-16. With this loss, they are still holding the best record in the NBA. They've lost their last 2 games, and they've lost 2 of their last 10. Sitting at the top of the Western Conference playoff picture, they sit 7 games ahead of the second-place Memphis Grizzlies, even though the Suns have 4 games left in their schedule. They have already clinched the best record in the West, as they sit 29 games ahead of the 10th place San Antonio Spurs. They sit 42 and a half games ahead of the Houston Rockets at the very bottom of the conference, to see what the difference is between the best and worst record in the NBA is. Taking a look now at what happened in San Antonio, just to stay south, the Spurs would host the Trailblazers. They would beat the Trailblazers 113-92. The Spurs would win this game by 21 after they outscored the Trailblazers by 18 in the third and then by 11 in the fourth. They would outscore them by 29 in the second half. On the losing end of this matchup, the Trailblazers were led in scoring by their starting shooting guard out of Kentucky, Keon Johnson. I'm sorry, not Kentucky. Their starting shooting guard out of Tennessee, who would be Keon Johnson. Keon Johnson would go on to finish with 19 points in 25 minutes. Their first round pick would shoot 8 for 15 from the field. And 3 for 7 from the three-point line. Off the bench, their shooting guard out of Kansas, Ben McLemore, finished with 19 points in 25 minutes. He shot 6 for 14 from the field, 4 for 11 from 3, and he made all 3 of his free throws. The Trailblazers starting power forward, Drew Eubanks, finished with 13 points and 13 rebounds in 32 minutes. He shot 5 for 11 from the field, 1 for 2 from 3, and he made 2 of his 4 free throws. On the winning end of this matchup, the hometown San Antonio Spurs were led in scoring by their starting small forward, Keldon Johnson. This is the one out of Kentucky. He finished with 28 points in 37 minutes. He shot 9 for 20 from the field, 6 for 12 from 3, and he shot 4 for 6 from the foul line. The Spurs starting power forward, the former Trailblazer, Zach Collins out of Gonzaga, finished with 18 points, 13 rebounds, and 5 turnovers in 31 minutes. He shot 5 for 9 from the field and 7 for 10 from the free throw line. With this win, the San Antonio Spurs are now 33-45. That is the 10th best record in the Western Conference. They've now won their last 2 games. They've won 7 of their last 10. At the bottom of the Western Conference play-in picture, they are sitting a game behind the 9th place New Orleans Pelicans. They are sitting 2 games ahead of the Los Angeles Lakers, the first team on the outside looking in. Considering the Spurs have 4 games left in their schedule, the highest seed that they can hope for is the 9th seed, as the Lakers are the only team outside of the play-in picture that are still eligible for the playoffs under them. With this loss, the Portland Trailblazers are 27-51. That is the 3rd worst record in the West. They have a 7-game losing streak. That is the longest active losing streak in the NBA, as they are tied with the Pacers. They have the longest active losing streak solely in the Western Conference. They've lost 9 of their last 10 games. They are sitting 6 games behind the 10th place San Antonio Spurs outside of the play-in picture, as the Blazers are one of the 4 teams in the West that have at least 50 losses and have failed to qualify for the playoffs this year. And as they have 4 more games left in their season until their season is over. Taking a look at what is going down in Sacramento, the Kings would host the Golden State Warriors from not that far away. The Warriors would beat the Kings in the Northern California Derby 109-90. They won it by 19 after outscoring the Kings by 14 in the first quarter. They were going to outscore the Kings by a total of 20 in the first half. On the losing end of this matchup, the hometown Kings were led in scoring by their starting small forward out of North Carolina, Harrison Barnes. He finished with 18 points and 10 rebounds in 35 minutes. He shot 7 for 17 from the field, and he made all 3 of his free throws. And on the winning end of this matchup, the Golden State Warriors were led in scoring by their all-star starting small forward out of Kansas, Andrew Wiggins. He finished with 25 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists in 36 minutes. He shot 8 for 16 from the field, 4 for 7 from 3, and 5 for 6 from the free throw line. Their starting shooting guard, Jordan Poole, finished with 22 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists in 34 minutes. He shot 9 for 15 from the field and 4 for 9 from 3. Their power forward off the bench, Nemanja Bjelica, would finish with 19 points, 12 rebounds, 6 assists, and 2 blocks in 30 minutes. He shot 7 for 11 from the field, 3 for 6 from 3, and he would make both of his free throws. With this win, the Golden State Warriors are now 50-29. That is the 3rd best record in the Western Conference. They've now won their last 2 games. They've won 3 of their last 10. In the Western Conference playoff picture, they sit 5.5 games behind the 2nd place Memphis Grizzlies, as they are also sitting a game ahead of the 4th place Dallas Mavericks. With 3 games left in their schedule, the highest seed they can possibly attain is 3, as they have to win their next few games if they want to keep their 3 seed going into the playoffs. With this law, but overall they sit 12.5 games behind the Western Conference leading Phoenix Suns. With this loss, the Sacramento Kings are 29-50, the actual inverse of the Warriors record. That is the 4th worst record in the West. They've lost 5 of their last 10 games. Outside of the Western Conference playoff picture, they are sitting 4.5 games behind the 10th place San Antonio Spurs, as they have 3 games left in their schedule. They are the 4th team in the West to fail to qualify for playoff contention, as they are looking forward to the lottery and this offseason. Taking a look, last but not least, at what happened in the second game in the Crypto.com arena, the LA Clippers would host the New Orleans Pelicans. The Clippers would beat the Pelicans 119-100. They won this game by 19 after they outscored the Pelicans by 6 in the first quarter and then by 16 in the second. They were up by 22 at the half. On the losing end of this matchup, the New Orleans Pelicans were led in scoring by their newest starting shooting guard, CJ McCollum. McCollum finished with 19 points and 2 steals in 37 minutes. He shot 7 for 18 from the field, 3 for 5 from 3, and 2 for 4 from the free throw line. The Pelicans' elite starting small forward, Brandon Ingram out of Duke, would finish with 15 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists, and 6 turnovers in 35 minutes. He shot 3 for 11 from the field, 1 for 2 from 3, and he would make all 8 of his free throws. The Pelicans starting center, Jackson Hayes out of Texas, finished with 12 points and 10 rebounds in 22 minutes. He shot 4 for 12 from the field, 1 for 2 from 3, and 3 for 4 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the hometown Clippers were led in scoring by their starting small forward, Marcus Morris Sr. He finished with 22 points, 2 steals, and 2 blocks in 27 minutes. He shot 8 for 13 from the field, 4 for 6 from 3, and he would make both of his free throws on the night. Their starting center, Ivica Zubac, would finish with 16 points and 14 rebounds in 25 minutes. He shot 7 for 9 from the field and 2 for 3 from the foul line. He would go on, their elite starting shooting guard out of Fresno State, Paul George, would finish with 15 points, 5 rebounds, 7 assists, and 2 steals in 29 minutes. He shot 5 for 15 from the field and 5 for 7 from 3. Their starting point guard, Reggie Jackson, would finish with 11 points, 10 assists, and 2 steals in 33 minutes. He shot 4 for 19 from the field, and he made both of his free throws on the night. With this win, the LA Clippers are now 39-40. That is the 8th best record in the West, as they've won their last 2 games and they've won 4 of their last 10. In the Western Conference playoff picture, they are sitting 6 games behind the 7th place Minnesota Timberwolves. They are sitting 4.5 games ahead of the 9th place New Orleans Pelicans. Overall, they are sitting 23.5 games behind the Phoenix Suns. With 3 games left in their schedule, the only seed that they can possibly finish and go into the playoffs with is the 8th seed that they go in with right now, as they look to face off in that first play-in matchup. Looking at where the Pelicans are with this loss, they are now 34-44. That is the 9th best record in the West. They've lost 4 of their last 10 games. In the play-in picture, they are sitting 4.5 games behind the 8th place Los Angeles Clippers. They are sitting a game ahead of the 10th place San Antonio Spurs, who are sitting at the very bottom of that play-in picture. Considering they have 4 games left in their schedule, the highest seed that they can get is the 9th seed that they currently have, just as they sit 28 games behind the Western Conference leading Phoenix Suns. That is what the NBA is looking like following yesterday's matchups. And of course, we are entering yet another week as the NBA season is on its final legs in the last couple of weeks. Taking a look at what's going on today, there's actually nothing going on today with the NBA, as the NBA will actually resume tomorrow, because today, of course, will be solely for the national championship game. Taking a look at what is going on in the world of soccer, of course, to finish off what has been a pretty solid weekend to return from this international break. Starting off in the Premier League in England, Tottenham Hotspur was able to beat Newcastle United at home 5-1. Their third goal would come from their elite Korean forward, Son Heung-min, as they would score all 5 of their goals after Newcastle scored their lone goal of the game. With this win, Tottenham is now sitting fourth in the Premier League as they have a goal differential advantage over Arsenal, even though they played 2 more games than Arsenal. They sit 5 points behind third place Chelsea in the table for the time being. And with this loss, Newcastle is currently sitting with the 15th best record in the Premier League. Taking a look now at what happened in Spain, Barcelona was able to beat Sevilla 1-0. Their lone goal came from their elite Spanish midfielder, Pedri. With this win, Barcelona is now currently sitting second in La Liga after sitting in the bottom 10 earlier in the season and after kind of struggling to make it into the top 6 at the halfway point. Sitting even with Atletico Madrid and Sevilla on goal differential, they have more goals scored than both of those teams, with 1 less game played than Atletico and Sevilla. And looking at where they are in the overall La Liga table, they are sitting 12 points behind first place Real Madrid, with 1 less game played in the table, as Barcelona has been scorching hot. Taking a look at what's been going on in France, the French leaders PSG were able to beat Lorient 5-1 as their amazing trio would each score. Their first goal would come from their elite Brazilian striker, their elite Brazilian forward Neymar. Their second goal will come from their elite French forward Kylian Mbappe. Their third will come from Mbappe as he would get his brace in the second. He would finish his brace in the second half. Their fourth goal will come from their goated Argentinian forward, Lionel Messi. And then their fifth goal will come from Neymar in the 90th minute, as Mbappe would have 2 goals and 3 assists for the day. He would have quite the performance. With this win, PSG is sitting on top of Ligue 1 as they sit with 12 more points than second place Marseille. Speaking of Marseille was able to beat Saint-Etienne 4-2 as they were able to see 3 different goal scorers and an own goal from Saint-Etienne put them up top. Marseille now sits 3 points ahead of third place Rennes as they are holding on to that second Champions League spot in France. And then, of course, taking a look at what is going on in Italy, the second best team in Italy, Napoli, was able to claim that spot after they beat Atalanta 3-1. They would score their first goal in the 14th minute from Lorenzo Insigne. Politano would score in the 37th minute before Atalanta scored their lone goal. And then Elma's 81st minute goal would put Napoli up by 2. With this win, they are sitting even with Milan, even though they have 1 more game played than Milan. And then, of course, with this loss, Atalanta is currently sitting with the 7th best record in Italy. Continuing on, the 3rd best team in Italy, Inter Milan, would go to Juve and beat Juve 1-0. Their lone goal would come off a penalty from Calhanoglu. As with this win, Inter is sitting 3 points behind Milan and Napoli, the 2-way tie up top. Juve sitting in 4th place. They sit 4 points behind third place Inter with 1 less game play, or with 1 more game played than Inter. So that's where Juve is currently sitting. And then, of course, with all the big games played in Germany on Saturday, there's nothing going on there. But taking a look at what's going on in the world of soccer today, there's not much going on, but starting off in the Premier League, Arsenal's going to go and face off against Crystal Palace at 3 o'clock, as they, of course, don't have to worry about Champions League. They hold the 5th best record in the Prem. They sit even with Tottenham, even though they've played 2 less games than Tottenham. They sit 5 points behind third place Chelsea, so a win can do them a lot of good here. Taking a look at what is going on in Italy, AC Milan, the team that holds the best record in the country, or I guess they're sitting even with Napoli for the time being. They host Bologna. Bologna enters this matchup with the 12th best record in Italy. A win or a draw would put Milan temporarily in first place for Serie A. And that is what soccer is looking like as we are about to enter the quarterfinal round for Champions League. And of course, with that said, that is everything I have for you today for Monday, April 4th, as that is everything that happened from yesterday, Sunday, April 3rd, 2022. I want to thank the NCAA, the NBA, and FIFA websites, as well as ESPN, for giving me all the facts and figures that I needed. Without them, I wouldn't be able to do this episode. Once all of today's exhibitions and matchups are done, I'm going to come back tomorrow on Tuesday, April 5th for another episode. And until then, I do want to thank everyone once again. I hope all is well, and I will catch you all with another episode tomorrow. Thanks for listening to this piece. I hope all is well, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks for navigating this world of sports with me one day at a time. Thanks for listening to The Elite. I'm James Sims, And I will catch you with more right after this. Peace out.